Hi, I'm Andrew Lawson.
I'm Andrew Hart.
And this is the Mumbly Hour.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm alright, I'm good.
Alright, great. I just switched to the Google Doc and it says you've been signed out. You must sign in again. That's great. I did not sign out, but anyway.
Maybe I kicked you out of it. This is the last episode of this show in its current form. You have been removed as co-host.
What are you on about? Alright. Alright, I'm back on. You haven't kicked me out, apparently.
I got an email during the week from Smile Software, the company that makes PDF Pen Pro and Text Expander. Are you aware of them?
Yeah.
They're changing Text Expander. They used to allow you to sync via Dropbox, and they're shutting that off in preference to their own syncing service and changing to like a monthly subscription fee. Do you know what Text Expander is? It's like a snippet thing.
Right. So iOS has that feature as a built-in thing.
Yeah.
And does OS X not have that?
Yeah, but this is just it's more powerful than that. You can do forms and like you can kind of people that do support. They'll get the same kind of feedback by a lot of people, so they'll have pre-templated emails where they'll type in something, it'll pop up, and it comes up with boxes to fill in their name and their details and stuff like that. So you can do.
Cool.
It is very powerful. It's more powerful than just doing like chucking your email into a text form.
Basically, the one big headline of this new version is that you already paid for it, but we're going to now charge you a subscription to keep using it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that like a subscription model is only really suitable for certain types of software.
It's a service that's continually being provided, and where it costs them money to keep providing it. That's kind of the basis of why you would have a subscription to something.
Yeah, it's like would you pay a subscription model for a calculator application? Probably not. I think there are a couple of mentalities that people have towards software where some people just won't pay for it at all. Like they just have. I know a couple of people who just don't pay for apps, and they've never paid for applications, and they never will. And other people who don't mind dropping a pound or so here or there. And what I actually wanted to talk about today was just people who don't mind paying for services like movie or music services. And I think that you have to bridge that gap where you have to be able to get it in front of as many eyes as possible, but then you also need to make them, when they're there, have something compelling enough to make them want to pay for it. And I think that Overcast's difficulty with with Marco's model was he's got a feature called Smart Speed where it shortens gaps automatically for you in podcasts. So where there's silences between the hosts, it cuts out that gap and makes make it shorter without it being jarring, without speeding up the voices of people. And he let you use that for 5 minutes, or you get 5 minutes worth of shortening time for free, and then it would stop and tell you to pay for it. So that's a weird user experience that he eventually took away and gave away the whole thing for free, and then tried to use the goodwill of the people who he had gotten the app in front of to go for a patronage model. But what I wanted to talk about really was trying to sell stuff on the internet and the different sort of ways of trying to support yourself. Which, when like in regards to like software or people who go for entertainment, so like, even like YouTube channels and stuff. So like CGP Grey has a YouTube channel, but on top of his YouTube channel, where each video will get a couple of million views, and he gets money for advertising for that, he also has a Patreon account. So there are a small subset of people who'll follow his channel who pay him every time a video comes out because they think that the content that he makes is worthwhile. So that's a very, very small subset of the amount of people. So he's got 2 million subscribers, and there's a very small section of those who give him some money every time a video comes out. But that mounts up. But that doesn't work for everybody. And I thought that would be quite interesting to go if we go through like the different models. I thought it'd be quite cool to talk about that. What do you think?
I think that patronage is interesting, and paying a subscription has become more prevalent. But I think it's really limited. I think it's much more limited than upfront payments for something, because people are doing well off patronage right now. People will only pay for a certain amount, and I think people are I think it's a bit of a gold rush right now where there's the right number of people doing it that you don't feel like you have to make a decision between two different people, and you don't have to like pull your subscription for one and place it onto another, because there's not that many of them. But I think that like if everyone tried to go for a subscription model, it simply wouldn't work, because people don't want to be given a bit of money to everyone. So where you might have a news site, I can't think of an example, but there's maybe a handful of tech news sites right now which ask you to pay money for either a newsletter or for their entire site. Only a certain amount of them can do that, because if everyone just put up this paywall and said, you need to pay us for this content, then I think everyone will become split between all of them and it would stop being so lucrative for each individual.
Jason Snell made that point on an episode of the talk show, I think, where he was saying that whilst membership is fine for some people, not everybody can do that, because it's the same with all subscriptions. People only have a certain amount of money. So if you look like in a typical RSS reader, there's dozens and dozens of blogs. And if you make the membership, say, $5 a month, people have to then choose between you all, because people only have a fixed amount of money. So it works the same with software. That was like what I wanted to get to with the text expander thing, which was people pay for like Office 360 because it's like mission critical for them, and Adobe Creative Suite because that could be mission critical for them. But there's only so much they can pay in a given month. So that's why, like, for news, advertising still kind of works, because you're not going to get everybody to pay for it. And Dan Benjamin, who runs 5by5, has been talking about listener-supported podcasts. It says that it's just not viable because, well, whilst he would love to have a couple of shows that were listener-supported, it's never going to outweigh the amount of money he gets from a sponsor, because you can't get the amount of people who may listen to a show to give enough money to outweigh what the sponsors might get. So, like, news is a good example. There's a cool new service that's recently just launched. They got a big investment by the New York Times and Time Magazine and Wall Street Journal and stuff, called Blendle. Have you heard of this?
No.
The guy who created it is from the Netherlands. He was on an episode of Tomorrow with Josh Jotopolsky, and it's basically trying to be like the Spotify for news. So it curates. Do you know, like, the Discover Weekly feature that Spotify has?
Yeah.
It's basically trying to take that, but for news sources. So it catalogs in all the news sources and delivers you articles, and then it charges like I think it charges 25 cents or something for to read the article.
So that just sounds like Zite or Flipboard or Apple News, except that they charge for it.
It's not really. New York Times is behind a paywall. The Wall Street Journal is behind a paywall.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, so they've got this big list of publications like Washington Post, New York Times, Time, Newsweek, which I know are all magazines and stuff.
What I was trying to say when I said it's like the Spotify for news articles is that if you look at what Spotify is, where you pay X amount per month for access to music, and this is the big thing that I don't really love about subscription services when it comes to music, is that you don't own any of that content. And if you were to stop paying, then it all goes away. But it's a way of spending some money to get access into something you otherwise don't have. So, like, the only other way in the music sense, the only other way to get access to, say, a band's catalog is to buy the album. So Spotify allows you to, instead of, like, you can just pick and choose what it is that you want to listen to. So you don't have to go and buy a bunch of songs from Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy and Paramore or some other bands. You can just pick and choose what you want to do and curate and make playlists and discover new stuff without it costing you a huge amount of money to do it. And this is a way of you, instead of having to have a subscription to the New York Times and a subscription to Time Magazine and the Wall Street Journal, you can just get the articles that publication puts out that are interesting to you in a single place. So it's trying to do the same thing for news. And I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting, actually. And I think your description of how Spotify, why people feel a bit weird about subscription music services, doesn't apply to news. And actually, the news subscription actually makes a lot more sense than Spotify in a way, because you don't feel like you need to own the news stories that you read every day.
No, and because it's so time sensitive, if that story about the tax situations of certain politicians, in 2 months' time, I'm not really going to care about that. So I don't really need it, because unless I'm using it for reference for something else, I don't really need it anymore. But in the case of music, if, like, say, if Adele gets pissed off at the people who run Spotify, or if a record label has a fallout with some of the organizers behind Apple Music, and they pull a catalog of music away, I now no longer have that, and that's a much bigger problem than if I can't read this article anymore. So I think that this business model kind of lends itself quite well to this. And it's got a lot of big backers behind these kind of these publications.
And it's actually providing money back to the publications, where Flipboard is more like, Flipboard is like, here's a bunch of articles that we found online on Mashable and stuff like that. A lot of free content. And they, I think some people have partnerships with Flipboard, but mostly these guys don't get paid by Flipboard any money that Flipboard makes from ads.
It's what publications used to hate about Instapaper, because they said that Mark Warman essentially stripped all the ads and everything away from their content, chucked it into a nice readable format into the users, and it kind of destroyed the kind of experience that they tried to put on their site.
Yeah, and I have Pocket. Pocket has a recommended feed, and they obviously don't pay the publishers. So it's really interesting that this company really is more similar to Spotify, or similar to Spotify Discover Weekly, because obviously I don't know, I presume they don't, like when you pay for a subscription, you don't just get access to all of the articles. You just get access to the ones that they say, here you go.
So I think it's quite cool, and because you pay for some articles and they have a money back guarantee for everything that they do. This isn't an ad for this company, but the guy was on this episode of Tomorrow. I say the guy because I can't remember his name. I feel real bad about that, but I can't remember his name.
It's Joshua Topolsky, isn't it?
No, he was on Joshua Topolsky's podcast.
No, I'm joking.
Sorry.
So
you can pay for the articles, but if you don't, you can get a money back guarantee on every single thing that you read, like without question. So you can just say, I didn't think this was worth my money, or I didn't do it by, and they can just get a refund or whatever. But he thinks that it's going to work, and so do the publications. They think it's going to work.
Wait, so do you have to pay for everything that you click on? Did you say? Or?
I don't entirely know. I'll put a link to the podcast in, and people can listen to it. But it's in beta at the moment.
Cool. I might check it out. How much did you say it was per month?
I have no idea.
I
don't know if I'm not sure. It might not even be a monthly subscription. It might just be you pay 25 cents for what you read. I think it's US only at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can. Most things I'm like, oh, it's US only, really? Why are they doing that to me? But yeah, this one, it's like they need to get the people on board, like the different publications.
It's similar to how like why it's not like Google services where they just go, this is only available in the US, and it's something like their docs in the cloud thing. Like there's no reason for it to be in the US only. This is like rights to content sort of crap that they need to work out.
Yep, fair enough.
People and their protections over their rights to their content is just kind of weird. It's similar to like the Game of Thrones thing where people were like, HBO, give me any way of getting this show. Just anyway, just give me any way that I can click on a button, give you money, and you give me the content, and I'll do it. I don't care how much it is. And they're like, no, you need to be a subscriber to HBO if you want the show. I mean, you can only be a subscriber to HBO in the US. So it's the most pirated show in the history of the internet, and it's their own fault.
Yep.
But yeah, so going back to this.
So while you were explaining this, I was thinking about how I feel about subscription for individual news sources, or basically that individual news sources or YouTubers. I don't watch that much YouTube that I would ever donate to a YouTuber as a subscription or as a patronage. But I was thinking about how I feel, and I really kind of take a step back when it comes to those individual ones, and I'm not at all sold on the idea because I can just see that scenario where I don't want to be picking people that I'm going to be giving money to. And I can see a time when that would kind of get out of control. But what I don't feel that way about is when it's a service that I'm only ever going to need to pay for one of them. So, for example, Netflix. I mean, you could pay for Amazon Prime as well, I guess. But let's say Netflix and Spotify, where Spotify provides you with all of your music, Netflix provides you with all of your TV and movie entertainment. And those ones I don't feel bad about subscribing to because they're just like they're just like these all-encompassing things where they provide a variety of content from all of these different sources. But when it comes down to patronage models for individuals, I feel like it's more I'm not so sure about it.
Because you can't rely on the quality of the content either. So you're choosing to pay for one thing. I think it works much better if it's like an aggregated service where it, like similar to like what app.net did with their development platform, where they had an API for people who wrote for the service, and they like a chunk of the money that we get from users goes to the developers, and just depending on it was dependent on usage or how many hit calls to the API or something. They gave out a percentage to a different amount to different developers each month. And I think that kind of works. Like that's kind of how Spotify works, where if you get 100 million listens in a month, they'll give you a couple of dollars. And I think that works a lot better. But patronage, like, the problem with patronage is you need to hit critical mass first. So you need to have the audience before you'll have people pay for you. So it's not really sustainable for like a new company or like a new service. So like if I wanted to do it tomorrow, if I wanted to start a YouTube channel and be patronage based, I don't have an audience, so I don't have any way. That's not really going to work for me. But if you're,
I would pay you $1 a month.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure your mum would pay you $1 a month.
Yeah,
so you've got $2.
She accounts for like 90% of the downloads to this show.
You've got 2 viewers now, and you've got a 100%
conversion rate.
Yeah. So
it's
you
awesome.
keep going on that path, my friend.
I'm 2 for 2. I'm gonna quit my job tomorrow. Become a YouTuber.
Yeah. So the bottom line here, my feelings on Patreon are negative, and I'm just not a fan of it.
I'm a patron to 2 people. I
Can I guess?
Go for it.
CGP Grey.
No.
Okay. Mike Hurley.
No.
Oh.
Yes. 0%. I am a patron of Dan Benjamin because he's given me a lot of advice over the years. He encouraged me to quit my job a couple of years ago. And Mr. Sunday Movies, because I have no idea why, but they do the podcast Weekly Planet, and his videos make me laugh a lot, and they're about stupid stuff to do with movies. So there are 2 patrons, and it's like $2 a month. I pay him, and $5 I pay Dan Benjamin, I think.
The thing is, like, I'm entertained by so many people that, and it's growing, the amount of people who I'm entertained by who offer, who ask for Patreon donations, or they don't beg for it. They post a link sometimes, and it's a thing that they have going. And I don't want to feel like, I don't appreciate their content or what they're doing or anything like that.
Yeah, because it's like,
just
I pick this guy, but not this guy. Or this person and not this person.
It's just like, I'm really aware of my subscriptions, and I think a lot of people are, and you're aware that you have this amount of money coming out every month. If they say, please donate $7 to me, I'm like, okay, I can donate $7. But if they're like, please donate $7 a month, or donate $1 a month, I'm like, oh, that's going to be coming out every month, and that's going to be a recurring thing.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
And you're right, it totally mounts up. I was doing some financial checking when I went to university last, and I was like, how much money does it cost for me to live per month? And I was like, well, I've got my phone bill, rent bills, whatever. And I looked at my subscriptions, and at the time I had Spotify, Apple Music, I have an Amazon Prime account, Netflix, and then if you look at stuff like Sky Go, or like I've got an Empire Magazine subscription, so you've got subscriptions on my iPad as well that are separate, and other software subscriptions, like I've got my backups that I do, so like Backblaze is $5 a month, and all these other services, and it totally mounts up, and you're like, suddenly I'm paying like £100 a month in subscription services for stuff that is mainly just like an entertainment source, with the exception of Backblaze. That's quite a lot of money to be spending, and that's why I was talking about like how aggregated sources are probably better, because it's like a one-stop shop where you're like, I'll pay one person some amount of money a month, and then it'll get dispersed to everybody that I get content from, because you cannot, like, each person can't support like everybody, and there can only be so many like John Gribbers. There can only be so many people who can have that kind of mass that they can be supported by people who read their things, because like we can't support 20. I can't pay 20 people $5 a month, because that's just unreasonable.
I think a potential solution there is YouTube Red, and I think they kind of mucked it up in the way that it's implemented, where YouTube
That'd be
Red,
another US only service launched by Google.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. But anyway, the way that they dish out the money is that people who pay for YouTube Red, all of that money goes into a pot, and it's then distributed through all of the YouTube content creators, and given as a percentage based on how many.
It's time watched, isn't it?
Do you know what the point? I think it's based on total views across all of YouTube, across all people. But the point is that they didn't do it in a way that really is beneficial to a YouTube creator of them going, you should pay for YouTube Red.
Well, it's done based on amount of time spent watching, the average time spent watching the videos, because I remember I was watching a discussion between a couple of people, and they were saying that they have got one channel where they put up 1.5 hour long discussions. Like, they'll put a podcast also on YouTube, and they'll also have a chat. I think it was CGP Grey who said he puts Hello Internet up, and he gets more money from that from YouTube Red than he does his own videos, and his own videos take a month to make, but the podcast takes a couple of hours, or like plus editing. So,
but let's say you watch two things on YouTube, and you watch Brady Howe and you watch CGP Grey, and that's all you watch, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to pay for this YouTube Red because I want to support my creators. When you do that, you're I don't even know how much it is. Let's say it's $10 a month. Your $10 a month isn't being split equally, or based on how much you watch of each person between those two guys. It's being distributed across all of the YouTube content creators, and so the value to CGP Grey of you as a viewer of CGP Grey joining YouTube Red is very, very small.
Yeah,
and so there's no real benefit to him of trying to convince you to join it.
I think you're right. I think the way that YouTube chose to do that is kind of weird, and it's not like how Netflix do it. Netflix takes the money in every month, and they use that to create content, to pay for deals. So like the payment for the rights for like the Disney or the Pixar films is done irregardless of the amount of money that they make that month. Like, they'll just pay, they'll say it will cost us this amount of money to have you on the thing, because their end goal is having a service that's worth the $10 a month that it costs you to join. So and that's why they also put huge amounts of investments in making their own shows. Like the person who runs, I can't remember her name, the person who runs entertainment at Netflix has a budget of about $2 billion a year to go out and make deals and get people to make stuff for Netflix. So it's another subscription model that, like, even subscription models have got different kind of ways of doing this. So like, you can subscribe to YouTube Red, and the way that gives money to creators is completely different to Netflix, where you'll subscribe to that to get entertainment, and that gives money to completely separately. Well, Amazon Prime gets split in a completely random way, because with Amazon Prime you get free next day delivery plus a video service plus whoever the hell else they put on top of it. So I have no idea how that gets split, and that's a one-off yearly payment.
Yeah, but when you pay for Amazon Prime or Netflix, you are paying for the entertainment. You're paying for the service. Whereas I get the feeling that when people pay for YouTube Red, they might be paying for the fact that there's no ads. That's a nice benefit. Yeah. But I think a lot of people pay for it because they can already watch the videos for free, but they want to support the creators and these people who make the videos, who they hear at the end of every video going, please support us and everything. I think people want to support those people, but I think a lot of people are joining because or would join it to support the people that they watch, and therefore it would be better for YouTube to split the money based on who you do watch, and then that would be the kind of replacement for the patronage sort of model, where you would have to go out and figure out individually who to support. But if it's a one single payment per month, and then that goes out to all of the people that you watch, and it's all managed for you, I think that would be a way more attractive proposition. So I'm surprised they didn't do that, and maybe they'll change in the future and do that.
The only reason that I think I would pay for YouTube Red is to get rid of ads.
Adblock, my friend.
I use Adblock, but Adblock doesn't really work on YouTube all the time.
Of course it does. I never have ads on YouTube. There was some experience I had recently with YouTube ads, though, and maybe I had it on private browsing, or it was on somebody else's computer, or maybe it was on my phone. But what happened was, it was so irritating. It's like I'm sure I got one of those banner ads from the bottom, but I got like a thing that just came into the video maybe about 20 seconds in on the top left, and it was just like a thing like, would you like to watch this thing next? I'm like, no, I'm sitting watching this video. It's nowhere near done. Just leave me to watch this video. Stop interrupting me. And then that flew out. And then there was one on the bottom left that flew in from the bottom left, and it was another offer of something that I could do. It's like, seriously, like, this is awful. Like, I just want to watch the video. If you're spoiling the video watching experience, I would love to say that I would go elsewhere, but, things are on YouTube. But it really does detriment the whole experience.
Yeah. Do you never use YouTube on iOS at all?
Not that often. Sometimes.
Fair enough.
I don't go into the app, but if somebody links to a video on iOS, then I use it.
I subscribe to a bunch of channels on YouTube and I watch it mostly because if I'm up, I get a bit of guilt when I use YouTube at my desk because I feel like I should be doing something more worthwhile than watching YouTube videos. So I normally watch it in the app on.
So then you get your phone out and start watching it there instead,
or my iPad. No, I don't know, but I do it like in bed or in the morning. I'll check stuff and I'll watch stuff then, or like when I'm having lunch or whatever. But the ads are all embedded in there, and you can't get rid of them because they're like pre-roll and mid-roll inside the videos. Anyway, but yeah, we're running a little bit long, but I don't really know what to. So okay, so back to software. We'll talk about software again.
So you mentioned you listed out the subscriptions you had before. It's interesting how many you can have without really realizing it.
It's scary.
So yeah, so you have what's that service called where you get like an instance of something and it's like $5 a month?
DigitalOcean.
Yeah, DigitalOcean. Like you can set that up and you think, it's $5 a month. Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Because then I can hack around on it and I can do whatever I want to do and it'll be great. And then I guess you just leave it and that's $5. And then you have Backblaze, which I don't use, but I'm gonna start using. But then you also have Backblaze, and then iCloud complains that you're running out of space, so you upgrade that, and Dropbox does the same, so you upgrade that.
You're never gonna get over that, are you?
Nope. I just think that the default option for all of these paying iPhone customers. I don't even remember. I'm getting to the point now where I don't remember what we have and haven't discussed and what did and didn't make it onto the podcast. But
because you don't listen to the podcast.
I do listen to the podcast. I listen to the first draft, and then you go away and you cut out all of the things that I ask you to.
I would like to point out that we're trying out some new things with the lengths of the episodes. So we went from the first episode being over 2 hours long, I think. Is that what the first one was?
Yeah.
And then
we called it Mumbly Hour and then went for 2 hours.
Yep, which was called out on.
I think we recorded for like 5 hours.
Yeah, we did. And I'm quite strict about these things, and I try and edit it down to a specific time. And then we got around for an hour for a while, and then I wanted to play around with shorter times, and then the last one was 36 minutes or something, I think it was.
Yeah, and I thought it was really good. Like, I listened to the episode, and this will sound like narcissistic, but I finished listening, and I was like, I want to hear more. And that was a good thing to feel, because it's like, okay, this is a good length.
Yeah.
But after 45 minutes, I just want to, like, shoot myself in the head.
Like, would you guys just shut the fuck up? I think that quite a lot, too.
But I honestly think 30, 40 minutes is a good length for our show. And even though we're not going to rename it or anything, but I think that's a good length to aim for.
No, we're not going to rename it. But the reason I bring it up wasn't so that you could boast about how you think it's a good thing. I really want some feedback, so I would like people, if you get to this point in the show, just to say, either let us know what you think, if you enjoy the shorter shows, if you think it should be shorter still, and anything else you kind of think. So go to mumblyhour.com/contact.
Surely all of the people who wish it was short have dropped off by now.
Yeah, so if you go to mumblyhour.com/contact, there's a feedback form, like, so there's submit a topic section. So if there's something you want us to talk about, you can mention it there, or you could just send us an email or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter or something, and just let us know what you think, because I'm just going off my gut feeling about what I think it should be and trying to cut out what I don't think should be in the show. And
what I like about the show is that it's kind of experimental in a way. It's still finding its feet, and we're still trying out new things.
I always get a fright when I see people downloading the first episode, because it's just dog shit. Like, the audio quality is so unbelievably bad, because I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just like, maybe this sentence should be in the left ear and this sentence should be in the right ear. And it was unbelievable. And some, like, I think friend of the show, Raul, friend of mine, he gave me a minute by minute criticism of like, nah, this isn't good. This is this bit. No, that's not good. And I think we're coming on a little bit.
Yeah.
Every week I learn a new thing, like how do microphones work. One week that was good. That was kind of like a weird sort of brain dump of thoughts about
paying for things on the internet.
Yeah, because like I got that email and it just kind of got me thinking about how it is you support yourself. Like, so because there's sites like Igloo and stuff that sponsor a bunch of shows that I listen to, or like MailChimp and things like that, and you go, there's just so many different ways to make money on the internet, and I just wonder how the viability dependent on the type of product that it is. So if you're something like a bit of software where your value is depending on what it is, so like Office, like if you use Microsoft Word or something, like Office has got a recurring value, like it's constantly serving something that I might want to do. So I maybe not mind paying $10 a month, but something like Text Expander, which is essentially a utility that I would think that I would pay once for, and that'd be me. It's similar to like something like VMware or Parallels that does virtualization. It's not something that you'd expect. It's a product I would expect to pay for, not a service I would expect to subscribe to. But
yeah,
it just got me thinking about it. And
one thing, so I haven't seen other people's arguments about it, but from your description, to me it sounds like they could have just used iCloud for the syncing, and it would have been free for them. Or they could have just stuck with Dropbox, which sounds like it worked perfectly well also.
I think it was more to do with the more to do with the revenue model, because they were seeing sales going down or sales not being enough to support themselves.
I'm just saying that it's more difficult for them to justify charging for a server when there are free options out there, and not just like, oh, there are free options. If you like look a little bit, it's like iCloud, for example, is like, this is a really obvious free example that you could definitely go with. So what if you don't pay the subscription now? Does the whole thing just stop working?
No, it's just that they stopped supporting it. So when it breaks, it breaks.
Right. Okay.
So there's no support for it.
So they're not gonna update your version ever again with any bug fixes or anything?
No.
Okay.
Which is a bummer, but you see, I think it'd be more sensible because they make another product called PDF Pen and PDF Pen Pro, which is a pro PDF bit of software, as the name tells you, where you can do stuff like fill in forms and make editable PDFs. You can export PDFs into Word format and then re-encode them as PDF. Like, it's a really, really powerful tool that I use quite a lot, and that I think may lend itself to something like a subscription model, because it's more like Adobe Acrobat, because it's got that kind of powerful feature set in it. But it's a text expansion tool. It's just, I don't know. It's a decision they made, and you'll find out in time, because they might change their mind. They might just be experimenting, because like you don't know until you try it. So they might have just seen a trend in how it works at the moment, decided they want to try something different, and they're trying it. But it just made me want to discuss kind of how people create and sell things, and how like the mentality people have. Because I don't know if people feel that they own a bit of software, but people don't feel that they own content. So that's why subscriptions for consumables like Netflix work. But I don't know. So to round up, if you have any thoughts about this, like these kind of subscription models and the sort of stuff that we touched on, and go and look at Blendle actually. So go to the show notes. They're at mumblyhour.com/12, I want to say.
Yeah.
And you can leave us some feedback. You can get back to us at mumblyhour.com/contact, or email us at mumblyhour@gmail.com, or on Twitter. Just let us know what you think. And if you've got some time, you can go subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. That's pretty cool.
I'm glad that I found out about Blendle this episode, because I hadn't heard of it before.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Listen to Tomorrow by Joshua Tobolsky. He usually has some quite cool people on there. It's normally like news people that are doing something interesting. So you go do that. That's your homework for next week. And we'll be back. We'll be back next week with something else to talk about. So that's us. We're done. Thank you very much. Have a good week.
Have a great day.
Goodbye.